ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Perhaps my best years are gone. When there was a chance of happiness. But I wouldn't want them back. Not with the fire in me now. No. I wouldn't want them back.
The voice of a man named Krapp. Today is his 69th birthday. He's sitting at a desk playing a tape that he made of himself on a previous birthday years ago. And the audience senses that this birthday, the one that's happening now, is different. And maybe there is a warning in the title of the play, because this is Krapp's last tape. Hello and welcome to The Stage Show. I'm Michael Cathcart. The voice you heard there is the Irish actor Stephen Rea. You'll know him as the star of several films by the Irish director Neil Jordan, and perhaps from the British TV series The Honourable Woman. The Guardian says that Stephen Rea is hauntingly good in Krapp's last tape. It's playing at the Adelaide Festival until the 8th of March, which is where we head right now to meet Stephen Rea. Hello, Stephen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's lovely to have you here. So Krapp's last tape is by the iconic Irish playwright Samuel Beckett. It's a one-man show. It lasts just 55 minutes. Can you tell us how your relationship with this play began? When did young Stephen first discover Krapp?
Well, I first discovered Beckett a long time ago when people were being totally bemused by Waiting for Godot and other plays of his. But then I actually was very fortunate to work with Beckett at a festival in London to celebrate his 60th birthday, I think, 70th birthday. And so I played Clove in Endgame, which had originally been played by a guy who'd looked after me, Jack McGarren, one of the truly great actors. So I got to work with Beckett, and he was extraordinary, you know, and I was hopelessly shy, but I learnt a few things, you know.
Were you shy because he was formidable? Because photographs of him all represent him as this sort of graven face, like made of stone and unsmiling.
Well, no, he had a great sense of humour, but like he was Samuel Beckett and I was only Stephen Rea, you know. So it was, I mean, that got me very nervous, you know. But he did say a couple of things to me, which I always say when people ask me what it was like working with him. He gave me a couple of clues as to what great acting is really about. At one point, I asked him, what does this line mean? And he said, don't think about meaning, think about rhythm. Yeah, and that's modern acting in a way, you know. And then there was another thing where Clove constantly says, I leave you, to Ham. And I said, when he says, I leave you at this point, does that mean he's going to the kitchen or going for good? And Beckett said, it is always ambiguous. So, you know, acting should always be ambiguous. It's not just about some very clear intention. It's about a lot of different things going on at the same time.
So let's talk about the ambiguity of Krapp's last tape. I mean, on the face of it, it's not that ambiguous. It's very stark and lonely. At least that's how it seems when it starts. And we meet Krapp aged 69, and this is very close to my heart because I turned 69 last month, and every year on his birthday, Krapp records a new tape, a review of the year just gone. But on this occasion, his 69th birthday, he's listening back to the tape he recorded, the one we heard at the top of the show. He recorded at the age of 39. What are we looking at, Stephen? What's the audience seeing on stage?
We're just looking at this quite elderly man, trying to find the right tape, the appropriate tape for the day that's in it. And he's trying to make some kind of sense of some part of his life, and he's not getting on with it too well, you know. And he kind of gave up a love affair with a woman because he wanted to be a great writer, and he hasn't become a great writer, and he also lost the woman. So his life has been about some foolish choices, and he's just trying to find where it all adds up, which is kind of sad,
It is sad. He looks up in a big ledger, which is his kind of key to all the recordings. And at the point you're talking about, he's looking for a section called Farewell to Love. And it's his account of meeting this girl on the river. And he says, I said again, I thought it was hopeless and no good going on, and she agreed without opening her eyes. And you feel, as you're saying, that something precious was lost in that moment all those years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But he's always losing moments. Even the banana that he drops, the banana skin that he drops at the beginning of the play, he skids and nearly falls over because basically he just about gets everything wrong.
So what's he searching for? Why is he doing this?
Some sense of what is left of his life, and. He wanted to be a big man, and he's not a big man. He let that woman go, and he finds, some discovery of actually that was a huge mistake, and but sure, we all think that, If we've ever had a love affair, we always think it's a mistake.
Yeah. Also, I guess unless we're Steven Spielberg, we all imagine I could have done better. I could have reached higher. I could have, if only I'd played that role or taken that job, or
Yeah.
Now, is this true? You had the extraordinary foresight to record this tape, the tape that Krapp plays and fast forwards through and searches for bits. You recorded this tape years ago.
I did, yeah. I wasn't ever sure that I was ever going to be asked to play it, but I'd seen productions of Krapp, and I hadn't really been convinced by the tapes that I heard. I never thought the voices were significantly younger than the man who was listening to them. And so I thought, then about 15 years ago, I went into a studio and recorded those pieces. And then when Anne Clark, who's the producer of this production, she came to me and said, would you like to play Krapp's last tape? And I said, yeah, and I've got the tapes already. and she had the good sense to say, well, let me listen to them, And then she listened to them and she was happy with them. And it does work for this play, because you are listening to something that is a little strange. It's not something you recorded 3 weeks ago in a studio, and you are listening to a different person.
So you can hear that your own voice, the quality of your younger self, is different, can you?
Oh yeah, it is different. Yeah. I mean, listen to me now. I've got a big hoarse voice now, But there he's lighter and more optimistic, shall we say.
All the shows I've ever made for the ABC over the last 25 years are in the archive. And if I go back and listen to something I made in the year 2000, I sound like this. I sound like my voice hasn't broken. It's quite different. It's very, very odd.
Well, you sound all right, though,
We're both getting by, Stephen. Has the impact of the play changed on you over the years as you've got older? You're 78 now. I mean, I'm saying that because I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and the older I've got, the more the play's become like looking at my own death. Do you find that?
No.
Oh, good.
No, maybe I just haven't inhabited the role enough, but I know I'm not going to die. Look, he's the most wonderful writer to perform, and it can be upsetting, but I don't get depressed about it.
Right.
It is like wonderful, beautiful poetry. So it's more than just a death knell, death knell. I mean, he is the most wonderful writer in the world,
It's often said that this play is Samuel Beckett's most autobiographical play. Is that true, do you think? Is that a helpful detail to know?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was in love with a woman who is that woman in the play, and he did let her go. He was in a boat with her, and he decided he couldn't go on, and he obviously regretted it. And there's whole things about his mother dying, and it's all true, you know.
Mm.
I mean, he's a wonderful writer because he can make that into something that isn't just fictional. It's a beautiful, true story.
39 today, sound as a bell, apart from my old weakness.
On Radio National, you're meeting the Irish actor Stephen Rea at the Adelaide Festival to perform the 55-minute play Krapp's Last Tape by the Irish playwright Samuel Beckett, one of the defining voices of late 20th century theatre. So Beckett was born in Dublin in 1906, but he lived in France, in Paris, for most of his life. In what sense are these Irish plays, Stephen?
Oh, all his plays are Irish plays, no question about it. You know, they have a sense of a European identity as well, but he's, you know, because he was there during the Second World War and everything. But he was a great companion of James Joyce. He learnt an awful lot about writing from being with him, being his secretary and assistant. And his dialogue, his speeches are like Irish people speaking. Well, that's what I think.
Yeah. So,
you don't think so?
No, I'm lost for words. Yes, no, I think so. I do think so. I think they do sound like Irish people speaking. I'm wondering about the pessimism, though. I mean, as you were saying, his most famous play is Waiting for Godot, but he wrote lots of plays and stories, and they are marked by a kind of poetic pessimism. Nothing moves forward. The great day never comes. Characters might live in a rubbish bin or be up to their necks in sand or perpetually pacing up and down a corridor while their demented mother calls from another room. Yeah. No one ever seems quite happy unless they're a bit mad. Is that a fair characterisation?
Well, I'll tell you, when we did Endgame in the Royal Court in London, and we did a dress rehearsal, and one of the artistic directors of the theatre came down and said to Sam, "Well, Sam, happy?" And everybody roared laughing, especially Beckett. He just thought that was the funniest question to ask him. The thing is that, of course, the plays are existentially very, very sad and everything, but he was a very funny man. You know, he was a joker. He gave me a great joke to play in Endgame, where Clove is trying to wake Ham up, and he winds up this alarm clock, and he puts it to his ear, and to Ham's ear, and it goes. Drrrr. This is rehearsal, and Sam said to me, when it finishes going, drrrr, just shake it to see if there are any more drops of sound left in it. And it's a huge laugh, you know. Yeah. And if anybody's listening that is going to play Clove, that's a great joke, you know. And he loved jokes. He loved music hall. The tramps in Waiting for Godot are funny as hell, aren't they? He's brilliant.
Yeah. Do you think that mixture of humour and sadness, is that an Irish thing? I guess yes. That's what I was feeling for before when I was wondering whether they were Irish plays, because it is so distinctive that these plays can be so sad. There is sort of no hope. And yet, despite in the presence of hopelessness, people make wry jokes to each other.
Well, there is an Irish melancholy. You know, there's a particular quality of melancholy in Ireland, I think, and he gets it, you know. And there he is sitting in Krapp's Last Tape, watching the window of his mother, seeing whether she's going to die or not, you know. And it's immensely sad, even though he sort of didn't love her, you know. It's extraordinary. I mean, he gets to the core of all feeling. That's what I think he does.
Stephen Rea, you were born in Belfast in 1946, the year after the end of the Second World War. And you've lived through a tumultuous period in the history of Ireland. What was the Belfast of your childhood like?
It was all a bit repressed, naturally the sectarianism that is inherent in that city and in that part of the world did come forward a lot. And then by the time the civil rights movement were looking for some improvement in the conditions for Catholic people, then that's when it started to go mad, But that was in 1969. And I think there's an inherent injustice in the regime there, and I don't know when it'll ever sort itself out.
Religion, as you say, has defined people in Ireland, and I suppose for centuries, really. But your family, I gather, were not religious. Can you talk to us about what that meant? Because it seems surprising that you could be in Ireland without being aligned.
Well, certainly, I wasn't baptised in any religion, and I'm kind of proud of that, really. My mother learned the fancy word atheist when she was quite on in life, but she didn't believe in God. And my father only believed in alcohol.
And what did you believe in?
Theatre, acting, film.
And how did that happen? How did you become a man who believes in theatre? How did you become an actor?
I think I was born with it, People think, oh, that's impossible. No, I just always wanted to be an actor. I was a show-off, for a while, and loved making jokes and doing things. And then I had a bit of a decline in my teenage years, and then it came back again, and I've always only been an actor. That's all I've ever done. And I read huge amounts of dramatic literature. I learned so much about it. And when I met a young woman in New York, and she wanted to be an actor, but she had no experience or of reading like the great plays of Tennessee Williams or Arthur Miller, and that was the basis of it all for me, was the great plays that exist,
So you're reading texts?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about going to the theatre? Were you seeing theatre?
Well, there wasn't so much theatre in Belfast at that time. I went to pantomime, but then I started going to Dublin, and I saw a lot of theatre there. And eventually when I went to London, you couldn't keep me out of the theatre. There was so much going on. It rubs off somehow, The New York theatre was really great as well. When I got to know Sam Shepard, we did a lot of plays together, and the miracle is that some of the plays that I read, I actually worked with. I worked with Harold Pinter, I worked with Samuel Beckett, I worked with John Arden. All of those playwrights were a key to how I discovered myself as an actor.
I can see in you a kind of energy which perhaps does come from an exposure to American actors, because American actors are always on the front foot. They don't hold back. They don't. An American actor never says to the director, "Is this too much? Should I?"
Well, I always try to be a bit subtle. Maybe I'm wrong. I do try to be. Subtlety is everything.
Yeah. But you're intense, Stephen. The subtlety is intense. We always feel that behind the line there is immense sadness or tragedy or that you're thinking big thoughts and that you're only telling us a part of what you're actually.
Well, I'm glad you get that. I'm glad you feel that. Yeah. You have to work very hard at acting to be any good at it, and sometimes you're not always good at it. You get away with it. But I've worked with some of the great writers, including the Irish writers, Brian Friel, who's was my partner in a theatre company that we ran together, and who else? Frank McGuinness, a lot of fantastic writers.
There was a time when you were employed to read the words of the nationalist leader Gerry Adams on radio and TV. That's all I know about this. What was that about?
Well, first thing I'll say is that I wasn't employed. I was asked by a very a wonderful journalist called Mary Holland, a woman of great conscience, who did an interview with Gerry Adams on screen. But because of the law at the time, Gerry Adams was not allowed to be seen live and for all of his thoughts to be broadcast. So she said to me, I knew her, and she said, I want to, I'm hearing a different sound from Sinn Féin, and I'm thinking that things could change if everybody would hear the core of what he was saying. So I'm asking you, would you record his voice so that everything that he's saying is made available to people? And of course I had to agree. And she said, and we might get into trouble. It might be considered, well, I'd definitely do it, I said then, you know. And I'm glad I did, but I'd certainly, I was not hired. It was a matter of conscience that I did it.
Mm. A matter of conscience because you wanted there to be discussion rather than violence. Is that the point?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, like, we're in theatre, we're in art. We believe in free speech. We believe that everybody's voice should be heard. And what both the British government and the Irish government were doing was silencing the nationalist people who were the victims of the state that existed there, and they needed to be heard, especially if they were talking about some kind of concession, you know.
You know, when I visited Ireland in 1973 to discover my Irish Protestant roots with my family, I didn't understand. It just seemed to me to be a terrible tragedy that there were Irish people fighting each other, because the people in Belfast seemed to me to be more like each other than anyone else in the world. They were the people of Belfast. I really couldn't understand why they thought that the people on the other side of the road, the people who lived in the next block or over that wall, were different. But
well, it's okay if I may say it. You know, the Catholic people were the indigenous people, and the Protestant people had been brought in to keep them tame. You know, that, and the British used that difference unscrupulously for a long time, and it was only the Good Friday Agreement that they started to move things slightly differently. But it's gone still again, you know. So I don't know what's going to happen, you know.
Do you think there is a time when Ireland will unite, though? And is that a desirable outcome?
It's a totally desirable outcome. The partition of Ireland is a completely cynical way of government in Ireland. It's a small country. As you say, people can get on well as long as you don't offer, an outsider doesn't offer power to one group over another.
And you see theatre, do you, as a way of helping that dialogue happen?
I always thought that, and that's why I formed that company with Brian Freeland. We did plays all over Ireland. Every one of the 32 counties of Ireland, we took it out. And so the great thing about theatre is it isn't hard and fast. It's offering ideas that are useful to people. And if they don't like them, then they should think very hard about them. But I think we can't live without theatre as an art form. It's essential.
And is there an appetite for theatre in Ireland?
Yeah, I think there is. Oh, yes, there is. I mean, when we started that company in Derry, which is a very small town and hadn't got a theatre, and, you know, it blew people away because they had a total appetite. And when we went around the country, people were streaming into the theatres because they wanted something other than trouble, or they wanted some insight into the trouble, not just the trouble. Yeah.
As we wind up, Stephen, I wonder whether you've thought of making tapes of yourself, perhaps as a record to leave to your two sons, or I don't know if you have grandchildren, but to your grandchildren. Have you ever been tempted to sit down at the tape recorder and leave a message to the future?
No, I never thought of doing that. I'd love to have grandchildren, but my two sons are too busy lying in their rooms with computers, you know. But, I mean, I would absolutely, more than anything, love grandchildren.
Yeah. Well, I hope that happens for you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for being such a candid guest. It's been an absolute delight to meet you.
You too. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you.
You've been meeting the great Irish actor Stephen Rea. He's performing Krapp's Last Tape by Samuel Beckett at the Adelaide Festival until the 8th of March. The show lasts just 55 minutes on ABC Radio National. You're with The Stage Show. I'm Michael Cathcart. In drama and in fiction generally, there are lots of characters who are famous for their hats. Robin Hood, Sherlock Holmes, Lady Bracknell. She needs a ridiculous hat. One involving a stuffed bird would be good. Nurses and nuns, swaggies and squatters, they all need